Number 15. China most of the world has never seen. China is one of the few countries in the world where a past thousands of years old and the technology of the future can appear on the very same street. One morning, you might see elderly people practicing Tai Chi beneath the trees in a park, their slow and peaceful movements seeming to have been passed down through generations. Just a few hours later, not far away, young engineers may be working in research labs on artificial intelligence, robotics, electric vehicles, and new digital services. It is precisely this contrast, yet without any real separation, that creates a China much of the world may never have truly seen. With an area of about 3.7 million square miles, China stretches across many climate zones, from densely populated coastal cities to vast deserts and plateaus in the west. However, what makes the country unusual is that the entire nation uses only one time zone, Beijing time. This means that despite the enormous distance between eastern and western China, clocks on phones, trains, and in government offices all show the same time. In some western regions, daylight can arrive much later than in coastal cities, creating a noticeably different daily rhythm. To understand the depth of this country's history, you only need to go back more than 2,200 years, when Qin Shi Huang unified the kingdoms and became the first emperor of a unified China. Near his mausoleum stands the famous terracotta army, with more than 8,000 life-size soldier figures. Each face seems to carry a different expression, creating the impression that a real army was frozen in clay to continue protecting the emperor after his death. Even more fascinating, much of the vast mausoleum complex has still not been fully excavated, making it one of China's great archaeological mysteries. But once you leave the ancient sites and step into a modern neighborhood, you immediately enter a completely different world. A noodle vendor may still pull each strand of noodles by hand, using traditional methods, while customers pay simply by scanning a QR code on their phones. In some stores, facial recognition technology can even help complete a transaction in just a few seconds. Smartphones have almost become a wallet, a communication tool, and a gateway to everyday life. That development is also clearly reflected in China's transportation system. By the end of 2025, China's high-speed rail network had reached about 31,300 miles. Modern trains can travel at speeds of around 217 miles per hour, connecting ancient cities, industrial centers, and modern urban areas with skylines filled with skyscrapers. In just a few hours, travelers can go from a city filled with palaces and temples to a modern financial center. Behind that rapid development, China is also facing a major demographic shift. The population has begun to decline, society is aging, and families are smaller than they once were. This raises many questions about the workforce, elderly care, and the future of communities in the decades ahead. Perhaps that is why China cannot be described simply as either ancient or modern. It is a place where calligraphy exists alongside artificial intelligence, Tai Chi appears alongside robots, and tombs, more than 2,000 years old, exist in the same country as a high-speed rail network stretching for tens of thousands of miles. China is not leaving its past behind as it moves into the future. Instead, these two worlds continue to coexist, move forward together, and create an image far more complex than what outsiders often imagine. In addition, Chinese women today are becoming one of the clearest forces reflecting the changes taking place in society. More and more young women are highly educated, actively pursuing careers, and building independent financial foundations. In major cities, they are increasingly present in fields such as technology, finance, media, business, and creative industries, showing that women's roles are no longer limited to the family as they once were. However, behind that confidence and independence, many pressures still remain. Many women must simultaneously deal with career expectations, family caregiving responsibilities, and traditional views about marriage. In particular, Highly educated women with good incomes who remain unmarried after the age of 27 are sometimes still labeled with the term leftover women, reflecting social prejudices that have not completely disappeared. For this reason, more and more young women are choosing to marry later, prioritizing personal development, building financial security, traveling, and creating a life based on their own preferences. For them, marriage is no longer a milestone that must be reached as early as possible, but a choice that needs to fit their emotions, careers, and quality of life. The image of modern Chinese women, therefore, contains many interesting contrasts. They are influenced by traditional family values, while also strongly seeking greater independence in a rapidly changing society. Their independence, high levels of education, and desire to determine their own futures are shaping a generation of Chinese women who are becoming increasingly confident and distinctive. Number 14. The invisible line dividing 1.4 billion people. Looking at a map, China often makes its first impression through its enormous size and one of the largest populations in the world, but if you focus only on the figure of more than 1 billion people, it is easy to imagine that most of the country is as densely populated as Beijing, Shanghai, or Guangzhou. In reality, the situation is completely different. China is one of the clearest examples of uneven population distribution, and that pattern can be seen through an imaginary diagonal line stretching from Heihei in the northeast to Tengchong in the southwest. This line is commonly known as the Heihei-Tengchong line, or the Hu line. It is only an invisible line on the map, yet it almost divides China into two very different worlds. To the east, major cities are densely packed together. Residential areas stretch for dozens of miles, seaports operate continuously, and factories, industrial zones, highways, and railways intersect like a vast network. This is also where most of the population, manufacturing, trade, and the country's most important economic centers are concentrated. In coastal cities, the lights from high-rise buildings can remain visible late into the night. Subway systems continuously carry millions of people to work, and the roads are constantly filled with traffic. But as you travel farther west, the landscape changes quickly. Dense clusters of cities gradually disappear, giving way to deserts, plateaus, grasslands, and mountain ranges stretching to the horizon. In some areas, you can travel for hours and encounter only a few small settlements. Vast regions such as Xinjiang, Tibet, and the arid areas of western China reveal a completely different side of the country from the crowded urban landscapes many people are used to seeing on television. The Tibetan Plateau is one of the clearest examples. Many areas here lie more than 14,760 feet above sea level. The air is thinner, the climate is harsher, and living conditions are far more difficult than on the eastern plains. Snow-covered mountain ranges, broad valleys, and widely separated settlements can make the region feel like an entirely different world. Its high elevation, cold climate, and great distance from major urban centers are among the main reasons why population density remains low across much of western China. Meanwhile, eastern China has been favored by nature with broad plains, abundant water resources, and major river systems that support agriculture, transportation, and urban development. The Yellow River is one of the most important rivers in Chinese history. It flows through lands that once supported early farming communities and played a major role in the development of Chinese civilization. For many people, the Yellow River is not just a river, but also part of the story of the nation's origins. Farther south is the Yangtze River, which stretches nearly 3,915 miles. It is one of China's most important waterways, passing through densely populated regions, farmland, industrial cities, and major ports before reaching the sea near Shanghai. Along its course, the Yangtze not only carries goods, but also connects major economic regions, supplies water, supports power generation, and is closely tied to the lives of millions of people. Major rivers such as the Yellow River and the Yangtze help explain why eastern and central China have long attracted larger populations. This difference has become even more pronounced as urbanization has accelerated. By the end of 2025, About 68% of China's population lived in urban areas. That means roughly 2 out of every 3 people lived in cities. Urban centers such as Shanghai, Shenzhen, Guangzhou, and Beijing have continued to expand, attracting workers, students, and families from many different regions. New buildings have risen. Subway systems have extended farther, and suburban areas that were once farmland have gradually been transformed into residential neighborhoods. However, Western China still maintains a completely different rhythm of life. In some grassland regions, herders can travel for miles without encountering a major city. On the plateau, villages are scattered far apart among vast mountains. In the desert, roads can stretch for long distances across land that is almost completely uninhabited. That is exactly what makes the Hu Line so remarkable. It shows that China is not simply a densely populated country, but a nation where people are distributed extremely unevenly. On one side are crowded megacities, seaports, factories, and financial centers. On the other are vast deserts, plateaus, and mountain regions with very low population density. Once you understand this invisible line, the map of China is no longer just a massive block of territory. It becomes a story of how geography, climate, history, and economics have shaped where more than 1 billion people choose to live. Number 13. Why the sun can rise at 10 in the morning in China. China has a very unusual characteristic that many travelers only notice when they journey far to the west. In some places, the sun may still not have risen, even when the clock is approaching 10 a.m. This may sound hard to believe, but the reason lies in the way the country organizes time. Geographically, China stretches across a distance equivalent to nearly 5 time zones. However, the entire country uses only one official time zone, UTC+8, also known as Beijing time. This means that whether you are standing among the high-rise buildings of Beijing, on the streets of Shanghai, or in a remote city in Xinjiang, the clock still shows the same time. On paper, this system is very simple, but when you look at actual sunlight, the difference becomes much more obvious. Xinjiang lies about 1,865 miles west of Beijing. Such a great distance means that sunrise and sunset occur much later there than in eastern China. While people in Beijing may already be starting a new day in the morning sunlight, many Western areas can still be in darkness, especially in winter. The sun in some parts of Xinjiang may not begin to rise until around 10 a.m. According to Beijing time, imagine a winter morning. In Beijing, subway trains are already crowded, breakfast stalls are steaming, and office workers are hurrying to work. At the same time, thousands of miles to the west, the streets in some cities in Xinjiang are still lit by streetlights. The sky is dark, stores have not yet opened, and many families are still waiting for the first light of the day. This difference in daylight also changes the daily rhythm of people in Western China. Morning activities often begin later, lunchtime may be pushed back, and dinner can take place at a time when many people in the East are already preparing to end their day. For first-time visitors, the experience can feel quite unusual. The clock says it is already late, but your body and the daylight outside make it feel as if the day has only just begun. To adapt to this reality, some people in Xinjiang also use an unofficial local time system that is usually about 2 hours behind Beijing time. This allows daily schedules to better match the actual position of the sun. For example, if China's official clock shows 10 a.m., someone using local time may consider it 8 a.m. In Xinjiang, scheduling can sometimes be confusing because some people use local time, which is about 2 hours behind Beijing time. As a result, a meeting set for 10 a.m. can have 2 different meanings if the time system is not clearly specified. Using a single time zone across all of China makes it easier to coordinate trains, flights, television broadcasts, and government administration. However, it also creates a noticeable gap between the clock and natural daylight. The farther west you travel, the later the sun rises and sets. Even though the official time remains the same, that is why people across China can look at the same clock while experiencing very different mornings. Number 12. Inside the Forbidden City, where ordinary people could never enter. In the heart of modern Beijing stands a massive complex that ordinary people were once almost completely forbidden to enter. This is the Forbidden City, completed around 1420 during the Ming Dynasty. For nearly 500 years afterward, it served as the center of power in China and as the home and workplace of 24 emperors from the Ming and Qing dynasties. The complex has nearly 980 surviving buildings and about 8,700 rooms, according to figures commonly used in introductory materials. Seen from above, the Forbidden City looks like a separate city within Beijing, with vast courtyards, massive gates, ceremonial halls, and tiled roofs arranged according to an extremely strict order. Every architectural detail was designed to express the status and power of the emperor. Color is one of the most recognizable elements. Yellow roof tiles appear throughout the palaces because yellow was closely associated with imperial authority. Red walls symbolize power, good fortune, and dignity. Even numbers carry special meaning. The number 9 frequently appears on gates, decorative details, and in architectural layouts because it was associated with the emperor's supreme status. One of the most important structures is the Hall of Supreme Harmony. This hall stands on a large marble platform and was once the setting for major ceremonies such as coronations, imperial weddings, and important court events. You can imagine thousands of officials standing in rows across the vast courtyards, waiting for the emperor to appear in a space organized with almost absolute precision. Here, architecture was not simply designed for living, but also served as a way to express the order of an entire empire. The Forbidden City also sits along Beijing's historic central axis, which stretches for about 4.8 miles through a series of gates, squares, temples, and residential areas. This axis helped shape the distinctive structure of the old city, where space was organized around imperial power. Number 11. The hidden Beijing that tourists rarely see. Leaving behind the wide boulevards, formal squares, and famous landmarks of central Beijing, the city begins to reveal a completely different face. The massive buildings gradually fade into the background, replaced by narrow brick-paved alleys, low gray walls, old rooftops, and wooden doors weathered by time. These are the hutongs, historic neighborhoods that once shaped much of everyday life in Beijing and still preserve one of the city's most intimate and familiar images. The most fascinating part of the hutongs is not grand architecture, but the rhythm of everyday life. In the morning, you might see elderly residents sitting at small tables playing board games, thinking carefully about their next move while chatting with neighbors. Nearby, a family may be drying vegetables, chili peppers, or clothes outside their home. From small kitchens, steam and the smell of food drift into the alleyways. Children run through courtyards. Bicycle bells echo between the brick walls, and residents stop for a few minutes to exchange news or check in on one another. Together, these scenes create a Beijing that feels very different from the image of glass skyscrapers, shopping malls, and crowded subway lines. Beijing has always had to balance preserving its hutongs with improving living conditions. If too many are demolished, the city risks losing neighborhoods that have existed for hundreds of years. But if everything is left unchanged, many old homes may no longer meet modern needs. This shift is especially visible among younger generations. Many young people leave the hutongs for apartment buildings that offer greater comfort and privacy, while older residents often choose to remain. As a result, courtyards that once brought several generations together are gradually becoming quieter. Even so, the hutongs remain one of the clearest expressions of everyday life in Beijing, filled with the sound of bicycles, the smell of food, board games, and conversations between neighbors. It is these small details that preserve the city's most familiar and human side. Number 10. The 21,000-kilometer wall built across centuries. The Great Wall of China is often imagined as a massive stone wall stretching continuously across northern China. In reality, however, the structure is far more complex. It is not simply a single wall, but an enormous defensive system made up of walls, deep trenches, watchtowers, fortresses, passes, and even natural barriers such as high mountains and major rivers. Different sections were built, expanded, and repaired over many dynasties, creating a structure that developed over centuries and reflected periods of instability, warfare, and the determination of Chinese dynasties to protect their borders. When all surveyed sections are included, the total length of the Great Wall system reaches about 13,170 miles. This figure includes not only the well-preserved stone walls, but also rammed earth sections, defensive trenches, supporting structures, and portions that have been damaged or destroyed over time. For this reason, when people talk about the Great Wall of China, they are referring to a vast military network extending across many different types of terrain, rather than a single stone path running in a straight line from one end of the country to the other. In the past, watchtowers played a very important role. From elevated positions in the mountains, soldiers could observe large areas and detect threats from far away. When they needed to send a warning, they used smoke during the day and fire at night. Signals could be passed from one tower to the next, allowing news of an attack to travel much faster than sending a rider across difficult terrain. Standing on a watchtower today and looking across the endless mountain ranges, visitors can begin to understand the strategic importance of this system. One of the most fascinating details lies in the construction techniques. In some sections built or reinforced during the Ming Dynasty, builders used mortar mixed with a component made from sticky rice. This mixture created stronger bonding, helping bricks and stones hold together more securely. An ingredient commonly used in everyday life became part of a massive military structure, showing how ancient builders used available materials to withstand rain, harsh terrain, and the passage of time. Today, each section of the Great Wall offers a different experience. Mutianyu is one of the most famous sections because it is well preserved. This area is well suited for visitors who want to enjoy the scenery, walk along the wall, and experience a relatively accessible section of the Great Wall. Jinshanling has a wilder and more rugged character. Here, restored sections stand beside older parts of the wall that are gradually deteriorating, creating a strong sense of the passage of time. When mist drifts across the mountain slopes, watchtowers rising through the clouds make the landscape especially striking. Badaling is one of the most famous and easily accessible sections, but because of that, it is also often crowded with visitors. During peak times, the walkways can become packed with people. Not all sections of the Great Wall are well preserved. Many wild sections are being affected by erosion, rain and wind, vegetation, and human activity. Some walls have lost their original shape, watchtowers have collapsed, and paths have become dangerous. For this reason, protecting these areas is becoming increasingly important, especially as more visitors seek out less crowded sections. The true value of the Great Wall, therefore, does not lie in myths such as being visible from space. What makes this structure special is the history hidden in every brick, every section of wall, and every watchtower. It is a trace of the ambition to defend territory, the fear of war, the enormous amount of labor, and the endurance of generations of people. Standing on the Great Wall today, people see not only an architectural wonder, but also a long part of Chinese history still resting across the mountain ranges. Number 9. Shanghai, where the past faces the future across one river. If there is one place in China where the past and the future can stand facing each other across a single river, it is Shanghai. The city does not need much distance to reveal this contrast. Simply stand along the Huangpu River in the late afternoon and look toward both sides, and visitors can clearly feel two completely different worlds. On one side is the Bund, with buildings in an early 20th century style, stone facades, clock towers, and traces of a period of vibrant international trade. On the other side is Pudong, where glass and steel skyscrapers rise into the sky, creating one of the most famous skylines in Asia. The two sides of the river look like two different eras, staring directly at each other. The Bund has a very different kind of beauty from the rest of the city. Along the riverfront stand buildings once associated with banks, trade, and international institutions during Shanghai's rapid development in the early 20th century. When the lights come on at night, the classical facades reflect on the water, creating the feeling that the city still preserves part of its old memory. Walking here, visitors can easily imagine a time when merchant ships constantly arrived at the docks. Goods were transported from many parts of the world, and Shanghai was one of China's most important gateways. Just turn around and look across the river, and the scenery changes almost completely. Pudong rises with skyscrapers, financial centers, luxury hotels, and a modern transportation system, but few people remember that not so long ago, this area was not always a symbol of the future. Before its rapid development, Pudong had ports, factories, warehouses, and many working-class neighborhoods. The transformation that took place over just a few decades turned an industrial riverfront area into one of China's most prominent financial and business centers. Standing out most on the Pudong skyline is the Shanghai Tower, which rises about 2,073 feet. Its gently twisting shape makes it easy to recognize even from far away. From high above, Shanghai appears as a vast network of highways, bridges, buildings, residential areas, and the Huangpu River winding through the center of the city. Ships continue to move along the river, while millions of illuminated windows below create the feeling that the city almost never truly sleeps. However, one of the most interesting ways to experience Shanghai is not from the upper floors of a luxury skyscraper. It is by taking a public ferry across the Huangpu River. The fare is low and the trip is short, but the view is impressive. On the ferry, you may stand beside office workers, elderly residents, tourists, or people bringing electric scooters across the river. As the ferry leaves the dock, the bund gradually recedes behind you while the towers of Pudong grow larger ahead. In just one short ride, visitors can clearly see the two faces of the city. But if you only look at the skyscrapers, you still do not fully understand Shanghai. Leave the financial district and enter the French concession, and the pace of life immediately slows down. Tree-lined streets, old villas, small cafes, restaurants, and bookstores create a softer and quieter atmosphere. This is where many people come to walk, drink coffee, read, or simply sit and watch the city. Compared with the glass and steel of Pudong, this area feels more intimate, showing that Shanghai still has slower corners of life within a metropolis famous for its speed. Behind that glamorous image is a reality that is discussed less often. Shanghai is a city of opportunity, but it is also a place where life can create enormous pressure. For many young people, rent takes up a significant portion of their income. Apartments near the city center are often small and expensive. As a result, many people choose to share apartments, rent small rooms, or live far from their workplaces to reduce costs. That also means long daily commutes. A young person may spend a significant amount of time on the subway just to reach the office, then repeat the same journey in the evening. For them, a small room can sometimes be the price of living closer to an area with more job opportunities. Behind the brightly lit towers are millions of people working to build their careers, save money, find better housing, and pursue a more stable life. Number 8. Ancient water towns that look like living paintings. Leaving behind the skyscrapers of Shanghai, after only about 1 to 2 hours of travel, the landscape begins to change noticeably. The crowded boulevards and modern financial districts gradually fade into the distance, giving way to fields, narrow roads, and a completely different world. These are the ancient water towns of eastern China, where canals wind between old houses, stone bridges arch over the water, and wooden boats drift slowly beneath the glow of lanterns. What makes these towns special is not a single landmark, but the way the entire space is built around the water. The canals once served like streets, allowing residents to transport goods, food, mail, and connect different neighborhoods. Along both sides are wooden houses, with dark tiled roofs, small stone bridges, and narrow walkways beside the water. As evening falls, lanterns begin to glow, reflecting on the canals and making the entire town look like a moving painting. Wuzhen is one of the most famous ancient water towns. It has been beautifully restored and is highly developed for tourism. Old houses, small museums, craft workshops, guest houses, and restaurants line the canals. Wuzhen is most impressive at night, when yellow and red lights reflect on the water and boats glide beneath the bridges. However, Because tourism here is highly organized, some areas can feel more carefully arranged than like a completely natural residential neighborhood. If you want to see the real life of these ancient water towns most clearly, morning is the most revealing time. Before large groups of tourists arrive, residents begin their day at a normal pace. Someone sweeps in front of their home. A family washes vegetables near the kitchen. Clothes are hung from small balconies. And shops begin to open. Steam rises from kitchens along the canals, along with the smell of food, while the water is still calm enough to clearly reflect every rooftop, bridge, and willow branch. Food is also an important part of the experience in these ancient towns. Each place has dishes made with local ingredients, especially river fish, braised meats, pastries, and rice-based foods. Eating in a small restaurant beside the canal feels very different from dining in a restaurant in a major city. Just a few steps from the table, boats continue to pass by, residents keep talking, and the light reflecting on the water constantly changes. Number 7. Chengdu, where pandas, tea, and fire become a way of life. Chengdu is one of the most distinctive cities in China because it combines a relaxed pace of life with strong growth in technology and modern industries. The city does not feel as rushed as many other megacities. A morning might begin with a cup of tea in a small tea house, a few rounds of mahjong, and a walk along tree-lined streets. Yet not far away are technology districts, software companies, game studios, and financial businesses operating at a completely different pace. One of Chengdu's most famous symbols is the giant panda. The Panda Research and Breeding Center is located about 2 miles from the city center. Here, visitors can watch pandas eating bamboo, climbing trees, resting, or young cubs playing with one another. Behind that adorable image, however, is a serious conservation story. The giant panda has been reclassified from endangered to vulnerable, reflecting long-term efforts in habitat protection, research, and breeding. Leaving the conservation center, Chengdu reveals a more intimate side. Restored historic neighborhoods combine traditional courtyards with cafes, shops, food stalls, and spaces designed for tourists. Although these areas have become commercialized, some corners still retain a slower atmosphere, with wooden doors, old tiled roofs, and small courtyards tucked behind busy streets. When talking about Chengdu, Sichuan hot pot cannot be overlooked. The bright red broth, filled with chili peppers and Sichuan peppercorns, creates the distinctive mala flavor, which is both spicy and numbing on the tongue. But for locals, hot pot is more than just food. It is also a social activity. Friends and family gather around the same pot, eating and talking while continuously adding meat, vegetables, mushrooms, and tofu to the broth. A hot pot meal can last for hours and has become an important part of social life. Behind the intense, spicy flavors is a completely different rhythm of life in Chengdu's tea houses. Locals may spend an entire afternoon drinking tea, playing mahjong, chatting, or simply watching people pass by. The city's tea culture clearly reflects a slower way of life, where time does not always have to be turned into work. At night, another layer of culture comes alive through Sichuan opera and the art of face-changing. To the sound of drums and amid colorful costumes, a performer's face can change in an instant, creating a mysterious performance tradition that has been passed down through generations. Outside the city, the Dujiangyan irrigation system continues to reveal the region's deep history. More than 2,000 years old, the system is still in operation, regulating water flow and supporting agricultural production. It is a clear example of how ancient engineering can continue to play a role in modern life. Number 6. The 3 ancient ideas still guiding modern China. To understand modern China, it is not enough to look only at skyscrapers, high-speed trains, or technology companies. Beneath that rapid development, systems of thought that emerged thousands of years ago still exist and continue to influence how many people think about family, education, responsibility, balance, and the meaning of a good life. Among them, Confucianism, Taoism, and Buddhism are 3 traditions with particularly deep and widespread influence. They do not appear only in temples or ancient texts. but are also present in the everyday choices of Chinese society today. First is Confucianism, a system of thought closely tied to family, education, and social order. One of its most important values is respect for parents and elders. In many families, children are expected not only to care for their parents emotionally, but also to support them as they grow older. As a result, relationships between generations are often very close, and an individual's decisions may involve not only personal wishes, but also the expectations, desires, and honor of the entire family. This spirit is also clearly reflected in the importance Chinese society places on education. Teachers are treated with great respect, while academic achievement is often seen as one of the most important paths to changing one's future. The Gaokao is a clear example. For many students, it is not simply a college entrance exam, but the result of years of study, their parents' sacrifices, and the expectations of the entire family. During the exam period, parents may wait outside school gates for hours, prepare food, encourage their children, and anxiously await the results. Success, therefore, is often viewed not entirely as an individual victory, but as an achievement shared by the whole family. If Confucianism emphasizes responsibility and order, Taoism focuses more on balance and harmony. One of its most familiar symbols is yin and yang, two forces that may seem opposite but actually complement each other. Day and night, strength and weakness, movement and stillness do not necessarily have to exclude one another. From this perspective, a good life is not about pushing everything to the extreme, but about maintaining balance. The concept of Wu Wei also plays an important role in Taoism. It can be understood as acting without unnecessary force, like water flowing around a rock, instead of trying to break through it immediately. Water is soft, yet over time it can reshape the landscape. This idea influences the way people think about patience, adaptability, and living in harmony with circumstances rather than constantly confronting them. The influence of Taoism can be seen in many aspects of everyday life. Traditional gardens are often arranged to create a sense of harmony among rocks, water, plants, and open space. Tea culture emphasizes slowness and a state of mind rather than simply drinking a beverage. Breathing exercises, ideas about health, and the search for balance between work and rest also partly reflect this way of thinking. In a modern society where the pace of life is becoming increasingly fast, the idea of slowing down and finding balance still holds considerable appeal. The third tradition is Buddhism. Buddhism entered China from India and Central Asia, then developed over many centuries within the Chinese cultural environment. During that process, Buddhist ideas were adapted and combined with local language and philosophy, giving rise to a variety of different traditions. One of its most notable influences is the emphasis on meditation, discipline, and direct experience rather than seeking answers only through theory. Practitioners are encouraged to pay attention to the mind, the breath, and the present moment. The idea of living in the present, observing emotions, and maintaining calm has become a familiar part of many practices related to meditation and spiritual cultivation. Number 5. Why Chinese food changes every time you cross a province. Chinese cuisine is so vast that simply traveling from one province to another can almost completely change the flavors on the table. These differences come from climate, geography, local ingredients, regional customs, and the trading history of each area. For that reason, treating Chinese food as a single concept is actually far too simple. The country is often described as having 8 major culinary traditions, each with its own distinct character. Sichuan cuisine is best known for its mala flavor, a combination of heat and numbing sensation created by chili peppers and Sichuan peppercorns. Dishes such as mapo tofu or bright red-hot pot often deliver intense heat, while also leaving a distinctive tingling sensation on the tongue. For locals, spiciness is not simply meant to impress, it is a natural part of everyday meals. Hunan cuisine is also famous for its spiciness, but in a different way. It uses plenty of fresh chili peppers, pickled vegetables, and smoked meats. The flavors are often bold, direct, and intense. but without the pronounced numbing sensation found in Sichuan cuisine. As you move south to Guangdong, the cooking style becomes lighter. Cantonese cuisine emphasizes the freshness of ingredients and avoids overly strong seasonings. Seafood is often steamed with ginger and scallions, while dim sum offers small pastries, dumplings, buns, and other steamed dishes served in bamboo baskets. Meals often focus more on sharing and conversation than simply eating quickly. Shandong cuisine stands out for its seafood, broths, and chef's knife skills. Some dishes require careful preparation, especially broths that take considerable time to develop deeper flavors. Meanwhile, Jiangsu and Zhejiang cuisines tend to emphasize refinement, balance, and sometimes a slightly sweet taste. Fish, river shrimp, bamboo shoots, and braised dishes are often presented in a more delicate style. Fujian cuisine uses plenty of seafood, mushrooms, and richly flavored soups. Anhui cuisine, by contrast, is closely associated with mountain ingredients, herbs, and dishes that are stewed or braised for long periods. This shows how each culinary tradition almost directly reflects the landscape where it developed. Another major difference lies between northern and southern China. Northern cuisine relies more heavily on wheat, so noodles, steamed buns, dumplings, and other flour-based foods appear very frequently. Farther south, rice becomes the main staple and is commonly served with vegetables, fish, pork, and a wide variety of stir-fried or steamed dishes. Number 4. The festival and the world's largest annual human migration. Every year, before the first fireworks appear in the sky, China enters a massive period of travel. Millions of people leave major cities, factories, schools, and offices to return to their hometowns. This phenomenon is known as Chunyan, or the Spring Festival Travel Rush, the peak travel season around Lunar New Year, and often considered the largest annual human migration in the world. During the roughly 40-day Chunyan travel season in 2026, the number of interregional trips reached about 9.4 billion. Of these, around 540 million trips were made by rail, nearly 94.4 million by air. While most took place on the road network, these numbers are enormous. But behind them are very ordinary human stories. A worker may spend days trying to secure a train ticket home. A delivery worker may spend much of their savings on the journey back. Train stations become packed with people, luggage, children, and the sound of announcements. But everyone is moving toward the same goal, getting home before the reunion dinner. The New Year's Eve reunion dinner is one of the most important moments of the holiday. It is not just a meal, but also a time when different generations of a family sit together after a year apart. In northern China, many families eat dumplings, whose shape is associated with ancient silver ingots and symbolizes wealth and good fortune. In some parts of southern China, rice cakes also appear on the table, representing the hope that life and careers will continue to rise year after year. Tradition is also changing with technology. In the past, children received red envelopes containing cash, but today, many families also send digital red envelopes through WeChat. In just a few seconds, New Year's money can be sent from another city or even another country. This is a clear example of how long-standing customs are being adapted to modern life while still preserving their original meaning. Beyond Lunar New Year, China also maintains many other important festivals throughout the year. The Lantern Festival usually marks the end of the New Year season with lanterns, riddles, and traditional foods. The Dragon Boat Festival is associated with dragon boat races and zongzi, sticky rice dumplings wrapped in leaves. The Mid-Autumn Festival is a time when families admire the moon, eat mooncakes, and celebrate reunion. Meanwhile, the Qingming Festival has a more solemn atmosphere, as many families visit their ancestors' graves, clean the sites, and offer flowers or food in remembrance of those who have passed away. What these festivals share is not their scale or the number of people taking part, but their ability to connect people with family and memory. Even as Chinese society becomes increasingly modern, the pace of life grows faster, and millions of people live far from home for work or study. These holidays still draw them back to the relationships that matter most. For that reason, festivals in China are more than just days off. They are a bridge between the young and the old, between the present and their ancestors, and between traditional customs and modern technology. Amid billions of journeys, what people ultimately carry with them remains very simple: the desire to return home, hear a familiar voice, and sit once again at the table where the feeling of home begins. Number 3. Landscapes so unreal, they look like another planet. Leaving behind the crowded megacities, China opens up into a vast and diverse natural world, where many places look as if they belong on another planet. One of the most striking landscapes is Xinjiang, where thousands of sandstone pillars rise vertically through forests and clouds, creating scenery often associated with the floating mountains in the movie Avatar. When mist covers the valleys, the rocky peaks seem to separate from the ground and float in mid-air. Here, visitors can also walk across a glass bridge about 1,410 feet long, or take the Beilong elevator, which rises about 1,070 feet, to view the cliffs and forests from above. Farther south, Guilin and Yangshuo offer a completely different kind of beauty. Limestone mountains with gentle shapes rise along the Li River, reflecting on the calm water. Small boats drift among fields, villages, and green-covered mountains, creating a landscape that looks like a giant traditional Chinese ink painting. In Zhangye, nature changes once again. Layers of red, orange, yellow, and many other colors stretch across the hillsides, making it seem as if the earth has been covered with giant bands of paint. When the light changes at sunrise or sunset, the colors of the rock layers become even more vivid. Meanwhile, Tiger Leaping Gorge impresses with its towering cliffs and the fast-flowing river below. According to the video, the mountains here can rise nearly 9,840 feet above the river, creating one of the most spectacular gorge landscapes in the region. Moving up to the Tibetan Plateau, the Potala Palace stands at an elevation of about 12,140 feet, rising prominently against the clear sky and vast mountain ranges. China is also home to Crescent Lake surrounded by sand, the Longji rice terraces winding along the mountainsides, and valleys covered with seasonal yellow flowers. It is this constant change that makes China's natural landscape so distinctive. Within a single country, travelers can journey from rocky mountains, deep rivers, and gorges to deserts, terraced fields, and vast plateaus, each offering a completely different kind of beauty. Number 2. How China built the fastest transformation in modern history. Few countries have changed as rapidly and extensively as China over the past few decades. Looking back to the late 1970s, much of the economy still relied heavily on agriculture. Many families lived in rural areas, and the transportation system was limited compared with its scale today. But beginning in 1978, a major turning point started as China launched economic reforms, gradually expanding investment, trade, and manufacturing, while creating more room for private businesses to grow. From that point on, the structure of the entire country began to change at an increasingly rapid pace. Coastal regions were among the first places to experience a powerful wave of industrialization. More factories appeared, industrial zones expanded, seaports were upgraded, and new highways were continuously built. Cities that had once been relatively modest in size began developing into major manufacturing and commercial centers. Millions of people moved from rural areas to cities in search of work, creating one of the largest urbanization processes in modern history. For many years, China became a global manufacturing hub. From clothing, household goods, and electronics to machinery and industrial components, products made in China appeared around the world. Industrial cities grew rapidly around large factories, while seaports and logistics systems continued to expand to handle the increasing volume of goods. But the transformation did not stop with traditional manufacturing. As the economy developed, China began investing heavily in more advanced technology sectors. Electric vehicles, batteries, software, artificial intelligence, finance, logistics, and e-commerce became important new industries. Shenzhen is one of the clearest examples. The city developed into a major technology hub, where engineers work on smartphones, drones, electric vehicle systems, and many other technical products. Shanghai stands out in finance, trade, and technology services, while many other industrial cities focus on producing batteries, automobiles, and electronic equipment. To connect an economy of this scale, China has invested heavily in infrastructure. Highways, bridges, ports, airports, and especially high-speed rail have significantly reduced travel time between regions. Trains can reach speeds of about 217 miles per hour, allowing passengers to travel between major cities in just a few hours. Journeys that once took an entire day or longer can now be shortened considerably. This transportation system not only serves passengers, but also changes the way the economy operates. Workers can move more easily, goods can be transported faster, and cities far apart become more closely connected. An industrial zone can produce components in one location, send them to an assembly plant elsewhere, and then move the finished products to a port for export. Infrastructure has therefore become an important part of the process of turning China into an economy capable of operating on a very large scale. However, the rapid pace of development has also created significant gaps. Income can vary considerably between different professions. A technology engineer in Shanghai or Shenzhen may earn a very different income from someone working in a restaurant, a small factory, or a rural area. Differences between wealthy coastal regions and many inland areas also remain. Major cities concentrate more job opportunities, investment, and services, while some rural or western regions develop at a slower pace. The cost of living has also become a major source of pressure for young people. In large cities, housing prices and rent can take up a significant share of income. Many people have to rent small apartments, share housing, or live far from their workplace to save money. This means long daily commutes on subways or buses. The job market is also becoming increasingly competitive. The number of young people with university degrees has risen, but not everyone can easily find a job that matches their expectations. In some industries, long working hours and performance pressure remain widely discussed issues. Beyond work, there are also other pressures related to education, buying a home, getting married, and caring for parents. For that reason, China's transformation cannot be measured only by the number of bridges, highways, factories, or skyscrapers. More importantly, it has changed the way hundreds of millions of people live. People have moved from villages to cities, from farming to industry and services, from cash payments to e-commerce, and from slow trains to a high-speed rail network. This transformation has also changed expectations for the future. A new generation has grown up with technology, higher education, and more opportunities, while at the same time facing greater competition and higher living costs. China, therefore, is not only a story of rapid economic growth, it is also the story of a society that is constantly adjusting to the very changes created by its own rapid development. While China often amazes the world with modern high-speed trains traveling hundreds of miles per hour, a slow train in the mountains of Sichuan continues to serve a completely different purpose. Operating since around 1970, this public welfare train has become a familiar part of daily life for people in many remote villages. Fares on some sections start at just 2 RMB, equivalent to about $0.30, allowing farmers, students, and low-income families to travel at an almost symbolic cost. On the simple train cars, passengers carry not only luggage, but also vegetables, farm products, poultry, and even goats to sell in nearby towns. Each journey therefore offers a vivid glimpse into rural life in China, where conversations, baskets of goods, and animals all share the same unusual space. For many mountain communities, this is not simply a means of transportation, but also a vital connection to schools, markets, hospitals, and the outside world. Number 1. What real life in China actually costs. The actual cost of living or traveling in China can vary greatly depending on the city, transportation choices, and spending style. A meal at a local restaurant can be quite inexpensive, especially if you choose noodles, rice dishes, or street food. But in major cities such as Shanghai or Beijing, hotels and housing in central areas can take up a large share of the budget. As a result, China can feel very affordable and become expensive within the same trip. One of the most important things for travelers is their phone. Many daily activities are handled through apps such as WeChat and Alipay for payments, a map for navigation, Didi for ride-hailing, Trip.com for booking services, and translation apps for dealing with language barriers. International travelers can link certain Visa or MasterCard cards to these payment systems, making it more convenient to buy food, get around, or book services. Public transportation can generally be quite affordable. Metro fares in Shanghai start at about $0.44 for the first 7 miles. For longer trips, second-class high-speed rail tickets from Shanghai to Beijing can start at around $79. Thanks to the high-speed rail system, travelers can move between major cities in just a few hours instead of spending much more time on the road. For budgeting, 2026 reference estimates can be used. Budget travel may require around $50, $80 per day, enough for basic accommodations, local food, subway transportation, and some attractions. Mid-range travel may cost around $100, $180 per day, suitable for better hotels and more dining options. For a more upscale experience, the budget can start at around $250, $300 per day, including luxury hotels, high-end restaurants, and more convenient transportation. However, travelers should also prepare for several challenges. The language barrier can become more noticeable once you leave major tourist areas. Some international websites and apps are restricted. During Golden Week or Lunar New Year, train stations, roads, and attractions can become extremely crowded. While tickets to famous sites may sell out early, some forms of tourist scams are also mentioned, so travelers should be cautious about unusual invitations from strangers. Air quality can vary by region and time. While surveillance cameras and facial recognition are fairly common in cities, train stations, and transportation hubs, the transit policy allows some eligible travelers to stay for up to 240 hours, equivalent to 10 days. For a trip of about 10-14 days, the video suggests spending 3-4 days in Beijing, 2 days in Xi'an, 2 days in Chengdu, 2-3 days in Shanghai, and the remaining time in Zhangjiajie or Guilin. In the end, the most memorable part is not just the cost. China is a place where palaces, temples, and traditions thousands of years old exist alongside digital payments, high-speed trains, and modern infrastructure. It is this coexistence of tradition and technology that makes the experience in this country so distinctive. Hidden among the mountains of Fujian is one of the most distinctive architectural styles in China, Fujian TELE. Seen from a distance, many of these structures look like massive round or square fortresses set among fields and hills. TELE were built mainly from rammed earth, combined with wood, stone, and local materials. Yet they have been able to survive for centuries. From about the 13th century to the 20th century, these structures were built so that many families could live together in a self-contained community. The rooms were usually arranged on multiple floors around a shared central courtyard. Inside were living areas, food storage spaces, worship spaces, and areas that served daily life. The thick walls, limited entrances, and solid structure also helped residents protect themselves from outside threats. What is most remarkable about TELE is not only their size, but also the way they reflect community life. Many generations could live close together, share space, and support one another. For that reason, UNESCO considers Fujian TELE a special form of communal residence in the mountainous areas of southeastern China. Chongqing is one of the most unusual cities in China, where the mountainous terrain causes roads, bridges, rail lines, and residential areas to overlap in almost unbelievable ways. The city is often jokingly called an 8D city because one road may sit on the roof of another building, while an entrance at ground level can sometimes lead to a location far above the streets below. The most famous symbol of Chongqing is Liziba Station, where a monorail line passes directly through a residential building instead of demolishing the structure. The transportation system and the building were designed to coexist, creating a site that surprises many first-time visitors. But Liziba is only one part of Chongqing's unusual character. The city also has massive bridges, multi-level highways, long stairways, train stations deep inside mountains, and neighborhoods built along steep slopes. Its complex terrain has turned Chongqing into a vast urban maze, where finding your way around can sometimes be just as interesting as visiting its famous attractions.